I'm Lisa Corrao. I am a stand-up comedian, and that is my main job. I do various other things, acting, done a little bit of voiceover, wish I could do some more, but mainly my focus is stand-up. And send it down the line.
I'm Azzy, and I'm a cosplayer, a YouTube personality, and Twitch streamer. Yeah.
Oh,
you have your
own. My name is Chris Gore, and I like to say that I keep my career portfolio diversified because I never know what I'm going to be making money at, whether it's doing stand-up or acting or TV appearances, or I also write books, and I've produced film and television. So I kind of just put my efforts into whatever's making money at the time, but I'm going to give away a copy of my comedy album to everyone here. It's called Celebrities Poop, and it's a parody book that I self-published, and it's basically a parody of the book Everyone Poops, but it's celebrities taking a shit. I'll just read the first page so you get an idea. It says, Oprah makes a big poop, Justin Bieber makes a small poop. This is like how they used to read books in 3rd grade, but it comes with a copy of my album, which I did through CD Baby, and I'll tell you guys about how to do that later and kind of be an artist that makes a living putting out content. That's it for me. Thank you.
Awesome.
Free shit, literally.
How's it going? I'm Brian T. Delaney. I'm a voice actor. That's my bread and butter, mostly in video games, but also in, I do some additional voices in animated features and stuff like that, but mostly video games, ADR, stuff like that. And that's it for me.
I think my nephew waited like an hour to get your autograph
Is that
yesterday.
right?
Yeah. He was so excited.
I'm glad. I'm very happy to hear that.
Yeah.
It's funny, I'm also ADR, so I know how you feel.
You're ADHR though, right?
Exactly.
My name is Mike Kingston, and I write a wrestling-themed comic book called Headlocked, and all the art in our book is done by professional wrestlers.
That sounds cool, man.
Can you talk more about that?
I was a wrestling fan, a comic book fan, as long as, since I was like 8 years old, and I would buy wrestling comics when they came out, and they were always really awful, like Undertaker fighting demons, and they were never about wrestling. So, I had this idea to do a comic book that I thought, would be a comic book that wrestling fans would enjoy, that wasn't trying to sell action figures and stuff. And then I tried to get it going, and everybody in the comic book world sort of shit on it. Like, nobody's gonna read this. Wrestling fans don't read. Nobody buys wrestling comics, and right? And
Come on over.
Holly Payne, ladies and gentlemen. Give her a big round of applause. Hey, there's room on the couch.
There's plenty of room. Come on over. More than enough. Or we can do the director chair. All right. That is your phone.
What is your favorite word?
Let's put it up here though, because that's all I'll think about the whole time.
What sound or noise do you love?
Can I ask about the wrestling comic? Because I think it'd be awesome if the art was shitty. Like,
no, it's actually
actually good.
Yes.
So, cause I don't know, like, there's something about it. Like, I don't care. Like I want to see a style that's unique to them. Like it's like the person who drew it got really freaking mad when they were drawing. So it's like you can see the anger in the lines.
The pages are ripped.
The covers are painted by Jerry the King Lawler.
Oh, you're kidding!
We do Norman Rockwell homage covers. So our newest book just came out on Wednesday, and it's a riff. The cover's a riff on the Discovery, where it's the little kid finding the Santa Claus suit in the chest of drawers. He's looking terrified at the realization that his dad is Santa Claus. Only we have him holding a wrestling mask and boots.
Cool.
I need to see that.
Yeah, I'll show you.
Can we hook it up afterward? I want to get all your information, dude.
Sure.
That's awesome. What wrestling area are you biggest fan of growing up?
I mean, I was a WWE fan growing up,
Okay.
obviously, but then you know, I was starting to get burnt out on it, and then I discovered like independent Japanese, Mexican wrestling, and like really got into it as an art form, and that's what my book is about. My book is a theater major who falls in love with the performance art of wrestling and decides he wants to become a wrestler. So it's sort of following his journey from like day zero. So we're sort of examining the craft of wrestling through the eyes of a performance artist, while he sort of navigates the seedy underbelly of the wrestling business. So it's got like a cable drama feel to it. The interiors are done by a Samoan wrestler from New Zealand who also runs a comic book store. So,
Dude, man, that's an awesome project.
it's
It does, doesn't it?
and then
Is it as homoerotic as real wrestling, or because I always see wrestling as like
The
it's
Greeks.
like gay porn without the penetration. That's just casually viewing it on television.
yeah, you got to watch pay-per-view for the penetration.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like MMA, when you see the MMA guys, they get like they're like in full moves. It looks like they're fucking. Is what I'm saying.
you know,
it looks like they're fucking.
There's
MMA.
literally a move in MMA called checking the oil, where you take your thumb and you jam it in the guy's butt to get him to like loosen up and like break his concentration. I mean, obviously he's wearing tights, but yeah.
That would break your concentration.
That would definitely break my concentration.
But that's like a legit thing. I mean,
Checking the oil.
Really glad I didn't get into wrestling.
Yeah, right.
I'm gonna start doing that to get through crowds. Just
I'm sorry to everyone that I asked that question.
No,
I want
that's
to
a good Times
apologize.
Square trick, I guess, just to
Yeah.
get through the crowd.
needed to be asked.
but I guess my point for being here is that, you know, when I started, nobody wanted anything to do with my book, and I sort of built it through wrestling because the traditional comic market was so superhero driven, and it's, you know, there's a small handful of publishers, and if you don't understand wrestling, you don't understand, say, the difference between the movie The Wrestler and Ready to Rumble. And, you know, one sort of making fun of wrestling and one is, you know, a serious look at wrestling, but they're both wrestling movies if you don't know any different. So, like, I did a comic book show, and a guy, some Roddy Piper was trying to exhibit at the show, and the guy only knew him as the guy from,
I'm sorry.
the guy only knew him as the guy from They Live.
What?
He had no idea that he was a wrestler, and this guy runs a comic book convention.
He what?
That's not possible.
I mean, he had never heard.
One of the greatest talkers in the whole game.
Jerry and I came, and he didn't know who Jerry was either. Like, I had to explain to him who Jerry was. Like, I mean, even from the Andy Kaufman stuff, like, he didn't know any of it. So, because, I mean, they're in their bubble. So
I'm not even a diehard, and that's
right.
those
no,
are
I hear you.
no-brainers,
He's one of the
man.
most famous guys going. So I built my whole thing on the wrestling audience, and even to this day, I mean, I've run 2 Kickstarters and for $50,000, and I still don't get. I mean, I can't get anybody in the comic book media to talk to me or whatever. But I sell my books at wrestling shows. I come to Comic Cons and sort of market to people directly. And
That's how it's done. Sorry to
Yeah.
intervene, but what I worked on is a movie called The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened. And the fact, oh, sorry, there's 2 people here. Don't think I hit the microphone.
Holly, I can't hear you over here.
Is that I marketed it, we marketed it, John and I, John the director, and we,
did a Kickstarter.
there you go. And it was specifically to the Comic-Con crowd, because that was our audience, and it just makes sense to market it specifically to the people that will buy
I don't think you need the traditional comic book
and I
media.
don't.
You really don't.
No.
And I'm
I agree.
happy with what I built. And like, there's a loot crate for wrestling called Wrestle Crate, and that guy buys my books and puts them in. So like,
I dropped Loot Crate, I'm gonna sign up for Wrestle
I
Crate.
put 50. You know, he's gonna buy 1,500 copies of my book. And if you look in Diamond, I don't think, you know, maybe Walking Dead, but nobody's selling 1,500 trades in a month. So I feel like I've built something cool, and I'm happy with it. And I'm almost happier that I'm outside of comics because it's such a it's a rough business.
But you bring up a good point. It's like it's good to be like a thing where you kind of own that.
Yeah.
You know, like you're not competing with any. I mean, I've never heard of that. And the fact that it's actually drawn by wrestlers is brilliant.
That's awesome.
And then for my Kickstarters, I have other wrestlers do art and stories for it. The guys that don't have art skills, we work on short stories together, and then the guys that have art skills. And you'd be surprised how many wrestlers come up to me now that I wouldn't know. They're like, hey, I can do stuff with pen and ink. Let me be a part of it. So I think people just like to know, hey, I'm not just this one thing. I can do this too.
Can I ask, is it fictional or is it like based on real lives? Is it real wrestlers in it?
No, it's a fictional story, but I mean, obviously a lot of it is the reality of the business. Like I've just like sort of studied the business and the art form, and I talk to guys about what they do. Like there's a lot.
So it's authentic but fictionalized.
Yes.
I have a question. So where did the performance artist aspect
That's a good question. If you're a wrestling fan, you have to defend it to 50% of the people that you know.
But it's a true, like, I mean, like, to be able to do that, I mean, those guys, they get hurt. You can't,
Right.
it's, you know, avoiding getting hurt, making it look like a certain way. I mean, it is a whole, it's also somewhat, I mean, I go see Lucha Vavoom in Los Angeles, which has, I mean, that's a different style of wrestling, but I've been going to that for years, and it's like, you see it in person, you have a newfound appreciation for what all those guys do.
And that's my thing. I try to tell a story that's accessible to everyone because, you know, obviously it's not just about wrestling, but it's about this kid sort of chasing his dream and doing his thing. So it's, you know, I try to make it accessible to everybody, but at the same time, you know, maybe if you read it and you're not sold on wrestling, because I've had people who don't like wrestling buy the book and come back and be like, oh, I have a newfound appreciation, and that's, I want people who don't necessarily know about wrestling to be able to see it through my eyes, and then, you know, sort of slightly educate them as to, you know, because sometimes people are just very dismissive of, it's that fake stuff. But I mean, obviously Stallone didn't kill all those people in Rambo, so I mean, everything's fake, you know. But
right.
For whatever reason, for wrestling, gets
the news is fake,
right?
You know?
And for whatever reason, wrestling always gets a bad rap for that. And so I just wanted people to see, like, there's so much effort and so much detail that goes into everything.
You must have went bananas over Darren Aronofsky's movie. It's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, it's really good.
20, 30
Yeah, no, and that's another thing where, I mean, that got made because he wanted to make it. Like, no one was going to make that film for him. Like, he made that, and, you know, he got Mickey Rourke when nobody wanted Mickey Rourke, and it became like a thing. But I mean, that was a passion project, and that's what my thing is. I mean, I work a full-time job. I work 65 hours a week, and then I'm on the road every weekend doing.
Whoa.
So,
That's crazy.
Dude.
Yeah.
Let's go to questions from our audience now.
Go for it.
So, everybody in general? Like, or
Whatever you want.
You got it.
But if you're gonna make it a really good question, don't fuck with us.
This one's a question for Brian.
Okay.
Recently, with the video game industry, I've seen a lot of voice actors talking about and potentially going on strike as well because of the type of hours that they make you guys do, and not just the hours, but the type of the stream. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
those like think of Call of Duty and the death screens and things like that. Like,
Right.
how do you feel sometimes when you have to go into a session and you record for, like, you know, a couple hours and they're telling you, like, do this, do that, do that. Like, what's it like?
And does someone check your oil to make you make those noises? It's a good way to make you make those noises.
Grenade! Here's the deal, man. When I go, this is my experience, and it's only mine. But when I audition for a job like that, I know what it's going to be. I know the max hours they can keep us. And speaking specifically to those high-intensity, vocally stressful battle screen sessions, they can keep you for 4 hours, like, legally. They never do. The max I've ever been was 2 hours with tons of breaks. And in some cases, they'd only make you do it for an hour. There have been the rare times where it was just like 2.5 hours, but I was just like, okay, let's just keep going, man. But I always know what to expect. The conflict rises up in me with regard to the quality of the performance is when I've heard, okay, there's two kinds of screams you can do. You can go balls out, like wrestle screams, Ultimate Warrior style. When I was a kid, I loved
Do
this.
it. Look at this.
Let's hear a sample. Let's hear a sample.
Well, I'll do.
I'm serious. I want to hear a sample.
I'll show you that in a second because I'm really gonna. But then there's like this scream. I remember I was taking a class, a voiceover class. Very good teacher was like trying to do voice matching, and she gave me Gaston from Beauty and the Beast, and I didn't have to do any of the singing. I can't sing, but like kill the beast, like all that diaphragmatic, operatic trained. I don't do that. Second of all, I don't think it ever works. And people who don't have a lot of experience doing video games say, no, there's a way to do it. You support it, and there's all this other stuff. No. These same people, when they do this, when they finally do it, they're like, oh, yeah, no, you're right. Because it doesn't sound good. I've heard video games where you can hear the actor he doesn't sound like Gaston. But you can hear them holding back, and to me, the experience is just like, I can just hear him. I'm seeing him in the booth holding back. So I go, instead of going, grenade! I want to go, grenade!
Wow.
And that,
I believed it.
thank you.
I believe there was a great.
But that's, I know, right? Oh, shit. I'll be arrested for
Oh my
terrorism.
God, you're right.
Holy shit! They'll be checking my oath for 10 years in Guantanamo Bay.
Fire in a crowded theater.
But yeah, that's, I know I'm going to do it like that. And every voice director I've ever worked with, who's an advocate for the actors, said, Brian, we got that. That's a 5. We got that later. There's like 8 lines where you're going to do that. So calm down, bring it down, and then I have to find that pocket where it's not what I just did. It's grenade. Well, that I can support that a lot better than the last one. Yeah. You know what I mean? So thank you. For the crowd, I love you guys. But more get warm and fuzzy inside. But you know, that's how I feel. I don't feel that conflicted about it. I mean, I understand the concerns, and I think what the union, us as a whole, is trying to do is trying to codify things a little bit better. But it's one of those things where I promised myself I wouldn't talk union stuff, but I'm gonna give you a break because you know what? You fucking showed up. I love you guys. But it's one of those things where it's holy shit! I'm moving here. That's it. It's one of those. I'll close it with this. It's one of those things where there's people that take advantage, and it's against those people we need to get strong. But in my experience, it's very supportive, and I've only met voice directors and producers that want to protect the actor's voice. So, thank you.
Can I ask you some questions about voice acting? Because I've done it in a limited sense, like a movie here, like a video game here, but it's not my career by any means. It's really hard. I mean, it's acting. And you can hear someone's, I heard this when I first did some VO stuff, you can hear a smile.
Yeah.
Yeah, so is there anything like, if you were, and I'm sure you're gonna get, like in terms of advice, like what you, because you do this a lot, and it's, and just the limited times I've done, it's way more difficult than anyone prepared me for. So.
Well, I mean,
obviously saving your voice and being, you know, there's a physical aspect to it.
Yeah, the physical and the technical and the instrument thing.
But do you take acting classes?
Oh, yeah.
Do you like, okay, yeah,
Oh, yeah. This is, I didn't just roll up.
Exactly. No, I'm sure, I know
Oh,
you
yeah,
didn't,
yeah,
but
yeah.
like, what is the preparation to get to that place?
You mean in any given moment?
Well, no, just in like getting to where you are in your career. Like, what is like
so
the
much help.
path? Like,
everybody's
also,
path.
like, I have friends that do VO stuff. They don't just do like, they'll do cartoons or anime or this, and then they're also like doing audiobooks, which is a whole other thing. There's so much, the audiobooks are huge now, you know?
It's very diverse.
Yeah, it's such a diverse, rich thing, so.
Each discipline requires, hey,
Tell me how you became a Jedi.
kind of like Ray, really. Somebody put a lightsaber in my hand.
Yeah.
I mean, oh God. I moved to Los Angeles to be Tom Cruise and Bruce Willis. That was never in the cards. I didn't know that then. I was just full of pipe dreams. I knew I wanted to perform. And, oh man, this is going to be so unsexy a story, but you moved to Los Angeles, I don't know, we didn't know what to do. We had a list of 25 names. You know, you move anywhere and somebody says, you gotta meet, you gotta talk to, you should talk to. And we had a list of 25 names, from like the president of production of Imagine Entertainment all the way down to an out-of-work editor that was a friend of a friend of a friend, right? We met, we're talking to all of those people. There's nothing they can do. What do you think is gonna happen? They're gonna vouch for some schmo that they never met, right? So we putz around a little bit. My wife, 25 contacts we brought with us on a piece of paper. My wife was my best contact. She got a job at the agency as an assistant in the on-camera commercial department.
Whoa.
Of the agency that reps me now in voiceover, but in the on-camera commercial department. Well, for 4 months, this is a long-winded story, so cut me off, anybody who needs to.
No, I want to hear it.
Did you have lunch with your wife?
I know, right? I took her to Boston Market. Perfect.
Did you sleep with her?
I slept my way to the top. I did. But she for 4 months she worked in the place, and it was this place in West Los Angeles. It's down the street. I love Bruce Willis and Die Hard. It's down the street from the Nakatomi building. That's the Fox building in Century City. And it's this big. She was really intimidated when she interviewed and got the job. This atrium with marble and indoor palm trees and all this other shit. She comes home. She says, "Don't fucking ask." I go, I wasn't gonna. I know, I was humble a little bit. After 4 months of taking calls in the on-camera commercial department from actors who were not famous, he's in the Valley, man. Can I get a time frame? My dog has a shampoo in Venice. Can we just switch up the times? My wife was like, are you fucking... She had her mind.
Yeah.
Are you fucking kidding me? My husband's working at a 2020 video when they existed. And he would die for these things. So after 4 months of taking those calls, she went up to her department head and says, listen, and he knew it was coming for months. He was
Right. Waiting.
So they took me on, they took a chance on me as a favor to her because they loved her. Not me, they loved her. And I started booking, and they really nurtured my career. They were the adjacent department to the voiceover department. They kept meeting me every time I came in, and every time the on-camera commercial department was like rah, rah, rah for my wife, Rebecca, her name's Rebecca. And so they kind of like had an opening of my vocal style and timbre or something. And when they took me on, they activated me, and they started sending me out for stuff, and it was just like a whole new world opened up. I didn't even know, Mel Blanc, the Animaniacs, and Ren and Stimpy. I didn't know there was hundreds and hundreds of people doing all sorts of that, like audiobooks and ADR. ADR is a big source of bread.
Right, yeah.
They started sending me out. My agent started sending. Are you cool with? Okay. Started sending me out for like voice matches. I just thought, there's only three: Jack Nicholson, Christopher Walken, and then Christian Slater, which sounds like Jack Nicholson. Like, whatever. No. Like Ben Affleck in his particular movie. Yeah, right. Everybody needs one. I didn't know that.
Yeah, my fiance John directed Metalocalypse and Venture Brothers.
Okay.
And so he directed Laurie Newman. He's directed fucking Luke Skywalker.
Mark Hamill's
such a great voice actor.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, there's voice matching goes from the tippy top of A-list actors to
guys that just can't make it. Their schedule is too big. If they're out.
And people make their living just.
The residuals I get from
insane.
shit voice matching when I'm not even credited.
Yeah.
Thousands of dollars every couple of months. And it's just like, holy shit! I didn't know how to get into voiceover, but I didn't know that existed to that level. And it's very lucrative, it's very fun. I did breaths and efforts, I'm sure you know. I got to do breaths and efforts and a little bit of voice matching for Channing Tatum.
But you should explain what that is, breaths and efforts.
Yeah, what is it? I didn't know what that was.
It's an awesome band.
Oh my God, that would make...
They opened up for Check Your Oil.
No, but you got to explain what that is technically.
Forgive me, I'm sorry. When you watch a movie, okay, and there's a big star, I'm going to use Channing Tatum. I did 21 Jump Street, 22 Jump Street, and White House Down. For some reason, a string of those Sony pictures, they brought me in to do his stuff. And sometimes it was kind of like, ugh, like you have to do like a voice match where they have to patch up a line or make something more clear. But breaths and efforts are like when they're in a fight scene at the end of White House Down, when he's fighting, if you saw the movie, he fights this actor, Jason Clarke, was awesome. It's all like that.
Wow.
Sometimes the actor does it on the stage, but it doesn't come through. Right. So you got to watch and you got to chase. Like you got to do their reactions, their breaths, their efforts, like that. And I love doing that. It's so fun. It's like you're a little kid shadowboxing. It's very fun. So breaths and efforts, both in video. That's in the ADR world for feature film.
I never knew that was a thing.
I didn't know either.
Oh, it's fun. It's totally, yeah. Sometimes when you hear trying to think of a famous example, I can't think of one now because I'm on the spot. But you'll watch a movie and then for 20 years, and then I watch the movie again. I'm like, oh, that was lewd. Oh shit, that's not even. Oh, that's funny.
Oh, does it ruin movies for you?
No, honestly, no, because it's a necessary thing. You know what I mean?
And the layman wouldn't notice it. I mean, that's
right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. For 20 years, I didn't notice it, and then your ear gets attuned to it because you stand on enough stages and you watch the timestamp of the movie, and by the way, there's even it's real there's beeps beep, beep, beep. Start. You got to time it out right where you have to match the lip flap sometimes if it's something real technical. But I'm sorry, I love voiceover, and it's the unsung parts of voiceover that are usually the most fun. Because the stuff that's the most glorious and the most fame-seizing, it's the most pressure, the most exposure, and it's the most tense. It's the fun shit where you get to stand on a stage and just and it's funny because it's just I get my whole body into it. It becomes like a workout. It's just and the mic can pick up everything. So it's really fun. I love it.
It's cool. Funny. It's funny because it sounds like just play as a kid.
It's exactly what it is.
Yeah, it's just whatever, any sort of just outdoor play as a kid. That applies, that experience applies to your work.
And going back, I'm sorry to do this, but tell me, please, cut me off. I'm verbose.
Oh, please.
Going back to how do you do this? I was taking it from the line of it's like when you can hear a smile.
Right.
When you play, little kids that play, when you watch them, and we all know this, we were all kids. When I was a kid, I loved the A-Team, the original A-Team.
Right.
And a shitty 2x4, my dad, who did carpentry work, would throw away and would have a nail sticking out the edge. That became a sight. And my 2x4 was Hannibal's M60 that he owned, his trademark balls weapon, you know what I mean? And I would fire that weapon with all the voice acting I couldn't do, but like the shitty kid version of that sound. And I was just like, when you died and you got shot, you fucking died. And it was like awesome and you got into it. As an adult, it's a little more nuanced, but you keep those images in your head. For instance, when I need to smile, I have 3 beautiful sons. And in Fallout 4, you're searching for your son. I had this image in my head, and they were composite of all 3 of my babies.
Stuff in Fallout 4?
I'm sorry?
You did stuff in Fallout 4? Oh, wow.
That's also cool.
So I had to, I pictured images in my head, and it was just, you summon up an image, and you can't help but smile, and you can hear it.
I want to throw this out, too, because it's funny that, the thing about voiceover is that not everyone can do it, either. Like, for example, there are screen actors that suck.
It's incredible, isn't it?
It's crazy. And one of John's favorite stories is, he actually was anguished in the actual room directing, but he directed an episode of, not Black Diamond, it was Black Panther, actually. And what's his name, Jaimin Hansu
Oh, wow.
was in the booth, and he couldn't imagine the scenes that he was being given. He couldn't imagine there was a helicopter flying over it, unless it was there in front of him.
Right.
He couldn't picture it, and so it was one of the hardest directing jobs John ever had, because he could not get anything from this guy. And it was hours and hours and hours and hours trying to get
That's grueling.
something emotional. On the flip side, Samuel L. Jackson he directed, and Sam Jackson, he has a lot of handlers, obviously.
Right.
And so people came in and were like, don't talk to him. I know you're the director, don't talk to him. You can't say anything to him. Don't,
What?
In the booth, he'll take some direction, but don't, he's Sam Jackson. Just don't mess with him. Well, what happened was that because of all that, he did some line readings that weren't appropriate to the intensity of the scene. And yet, because John was told he wasn't supposed to talk to him, he was like, I'm fucking directing this thing. I'm gonna talk to him. I need the right take.
Right.
And so he did, and basically what happened was Sam Jackson had the reaction of what John was told he was going to have, which is, why am I being told to do this a different way? Because he had to go through people to get the message to Sam in the first place.
Gosh.
Fucked up. But because of that, Sam was like, he realized later on, because John had to express, well, it's because this is the context of what's happening, and it doesn't fit for... And once he knew that, he's an actor, he understands. He switched on a dime and he got it the first time. And it was just like, it was the easiest thing ever.
No actor is above direction, by the way.
I know.
No actor.
Yeah.
I'm totally picturing like a scene at like a dinner table. He's like, pass Cheerios, motherfucker.
You're right.
But also it's interesting because there's kind of 2 types of the voice actors. There's the known people like Sam Jackson,
Right.
the people, when Pixar puts out a movie, they have whatever celebrity actor is doing the main voices. But then there's all the people who are actually voice actors and have that craft. There's a documentary.
Oh, I know that voice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know that voice, which I recommend. I think it's on Netflix
It's Netflix,
now.
I believe.
Yeah,
So-
I know that voice, and if you want to, learn about all this stuff, I know that
Billy
voice.
West, like all-
Brilliant
Speaking
documentary.
of Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
That's a great
the
doc.
Unsuns, and
Yes.
like the like the Rob Paulsons. I'm a big fan of D. Bradley Baker's work. I like making creature noises, and if Frank Welker isn't making the noise, it's D. Bradley. You know who Frank Welker is? Frank Welker. Okay, this is the Frank Welker. Speaking of Samuel L. Jackson, and Frank Welker, if you add up all the grosses of all their movies, they're like tied. The grosses of all the movies he ever done. Why? Frank Welker. This is before your time, but he was Megatron in the original Transformers cartoon in the 80s. But he was also the little monkey in Raiders of the Lost Ark that gets poisoned by his own master's poison, like that. He's Curious George. He is so prolific. He's been in so many films. He was like the animal in the parallel universe in Stargate, which I called it. I didn't see it for years, and I'm looking at.
You get attuned to it.
You get attuned to
Yeah.
Frank, like Frank Walker stuff. That's Frank Walker. He does any creature that's like that. D. Bradley Baker can do that too, but he can also do like little birds and little tiny dogs barking. It's just amazing, and you don't really know who these people are. but they're like they're the bread and butter. They're the soup. Lorraine Newman, who's famous for Saturday Night Live, great voice actor.
Yeah. And Bill Hader actually.
Bill
Hader did BB-8, some of BB-8. BB-8 was done by 2 people.
No, he was the consultant.
He wasn't the voice. Who was the voice?
I can't remember, but he was a consultant to the voice actor, but he wasn't.
No. Oh,
that's an interesting part of it.
I think, yeah, and for me, as someone who doesn't do voiceover like this, but obviously enjoys movies and cartoons and whatever, when like you mentioned Pixar will have these huge stars, in general, those are not my favorite characters. Right. You think of your favorite characters over your lifetime, the voices, they're people who weren't mega stars, they were just people doing voiceover. Right.
Like a Jim Cummings as
yes.
The 3 Hyenas, and there's Whoopi Goldberg, Cheech Marin, and then there's Ed. Ed was the scene stealer.
Yeah.
Right.
Jim Cummings.
Yeah,
great voice actor. He's actually the new. He's been Winnie the Pooh and Tigger 2 for 25 years. But that guy, I laughed my ass off every time. Everybody went, Ed. That was Jim Cummings.
Exactly.
Did he have the name recognizability of a Whoopi Goldberg? No.
Right.
But he was the scene stealer.
But he's a hero in that industry.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah.
To me. But yeah. Good call. I want to hear from your world, because your world is actually a world that is intriguing as hell. And we're here at Magic City Comic Con, so let's rock and roll.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to say. The panel too is like, how do you take that creative love and turn it into something that's a job?
Yeah.
That's what I think that the theme of this is. Yeah. And you know, I definitely got a sense of like, okay, I got to sleep my way into voiceover. Okay, I'm going to do that. I've already got my eye on a few people.
There were wedding bells, but I did sleep my way.
I'm sure, like, cosplay, like, obviously everyone's doing it here, but how do you make it into a job?
Well, I started off, it started off as a hobby. And is this even on? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, so it started off as, I started off as a hobby, and I just started getting my name out there, like, really kept, like, active on social media, and my following just, like, kept on building and building. I also started doing hosting for a really popular YouTube channel. Mm-hmm.
What channel is that? Plug it.
I'm not hosting for them anymore, but it's Info.
Oh, forget it then.
Yeah. And I just started my own YouTube channel, and just like I'm constantly busy. I'm constantly making new cosplays. I'm constantly posting videos. I'm constantly posting pictures. And eventually you just get contacted, and you travel for events, and you meet.
So you go to a lot of cons, right? Yeah. And where are you based out of?
I'm based out of Toronto, Canada.
Oh wow. Yeah. And everyone else is LA or?
LA.
Yeah.
Upstate New York.
I'm New York too. Yay.
Yeah.
Queens, Astoria. All right.
Nice. There's nothing to be. There's no celebration.
That's all. Yeah.
Awesome.
Very cool.
So then I have a question. In terms of how many guys send you dick pics on a daily basis? Like,
you know what?
Don't you have to deal with
celebrities poop?
Yeah, but wait, no, I'm serious. Like,
you know what?
There's a whole thing
actually
of women in the cosplay community being, receiving unsolicited, harassing crap. Like, I'm curious how you deal with that because, I have my own fandom. We have, we deal with that stuff. But what you have to deal with, I don't even know how to handle. Like,
a fun little fact: the only dick pic I've gotten was a Pikachu with a dildo like strapped onto it. I'm not kidding. I was like, yeah. I have never actually.
Sorry for sending that. Thought you were gonna like it.
For real.
But do you have to deal with how do you deal with
a lot of?
Yeah, like how do you deal with it?
I actually, for some reason, haven't gotten a dick pic. I try to keep my social media.
I've gotten
very,
tons.
PG-13.
I'm serious. Yes. Maybe it's because I'm a stand-up comic. Maybe because I'm in comedy clubs and places where people are drinking and it's late at night generally. I think maybe just the demographic and where these people are seeing me for the first time, they're maybe in that mode.
Are they little? Is that maybe they're just trying to
It's all the gamut. I mean, it's the whole thing. It's whatever you can think of. I get the weirdest fans. I get wonderful fans, too.
I got some weird,
You got a dick pic?
No.
Holy shit. You're the last guy on this panel.
But they're really big and bulging, veiny dick pics, right? Like, sort of like a...
Blood Gorge Pole, brother.
Blood-gorged pole? That is...
Having one foot in wrestling and one foot in comics, you sort of catch sometimes the Venn diagram of weirdness.
The Venn diagram of weirdness.
It's rough.
You should use that.
Oh my God.
I mean, I have people, like a guy came up to me and he was, hey, I'm in the wrestling business. Oh, okay. What did you do? I had an all-girl submission wrestling team. Huh? But then I lost it. Huh? How'd you lose it? We got a divorce, and then my wife had a sex change, and she married the top wrestler. And that was that's what he led with.
That's your next comic right there.
That's your next comic.
And he's like, I'm getting a new team together. He goes, you could be in some of the videos. I'm like, I'm not a submission wrestler or a female. He goes, no, you could just be like, wear a t-shirt with your book on it and just like be in the background. I'm like, that sounds creepy.
He wants you to be the Baba Booey of his
Wow.
Dude.
Wow.
That is a story that you need to remember and write down.
Do not. Yeah, that's
No, it's from like 6 years ago.
You got it. It's seared into your mind.
That's a very special 2-part episode of whatever the fuck you do with that.
It's the Christmas special.
All right, so in keeping with the theme, what other people with dick pics? Anyone have to receive them or?
Why are we talking dick?
I don't know, because I was trying to derail the panel and I succeeded.
He's trying to figure out who he can send him to.
Speaking of dick pics, I want to tell you about a person who did get up and get creative with dick pics. There's a woman.
Way to tie it in.
I just saw this on. There's a tie-in. There's this woman who was a photographer who was getting a lot of dick pics. She started realizing she's like, these are terribly shot.
I heard about this.
You know about this?
Yes.
So she's like, these suck. I could take better dick pics than these. So she did. So what she started doing was basically she would mostly with couples. Like there'd be a couple and the woman would be like, I want a really nice photo of my guy's, Johnson. So,
Just like a feather bow on it.
I'm not even fucking around.
Yeah.
That's exactly what she. Like,
Right, they're like dressed up and stuff. There's little clothes.
She was at Art Basel here in Miami just a few months ago.
Yeah, she was in Art Basel.
That's right.
Art Basel.
And she was selling her photos for $10,000.
Yes.
Dollars. Yes.
Yes. And
Dick pics.
she dresses them up in doll clothes.
Could have went back in time.
Seriously, literally.
You put a fake mustache on it.
Yep.
Well, there had to be a Vader one.
Cowboy hats, shit like that.
She had one with dressed as a Fidel Castro. I've seen the pictures.
Yes.
Fidel Castro with that cap and everything, a little beard, and the Cuban flag in the back. Yeah.
I think I want a Fred Durst with like a backwards red hat and a little swole.
She had,
We gotta
she
make it
had
happen.
Trump of all things.
Yeah, she got
Well, the comb over.
Oh my god.
That's not art, I'm sorry.
So that's getting creative though, and taking something.
Creative.
It has to get up in order to be a good picture.
Whoa! The pun of the day. Pun of the day.
Listen, and if you there's an article, and I read the article.
There's a video. You can watch
Well,
it.
it's a video
yeah.
along with the article. You can tell. Yes, because we usually do couples because we can have the significant other be the fluffer.
There was a fluffer, yeah.
I was like,
Well,
okay.
it always
Yikes.
comes back to porn, ladies and gentlemen.
It does.
Are you looking up the dick pics?
No, I wanted to say. I don't know why I had to say no. Like I would be like, yeah, of course I am. I was just looking at the time we have the room till. I'll look it up later though.
Oh, forgive me. We didn't. Yeah, sorry.
I produced a film called The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened, which is all about the Nicolas Cage Tim Burton Superman film that never got made. But my journey to that project was completely, all over the map. My first ever paid gig for anything was I was the Lips of Liquid Television on MTV.
Are you shitting me?
What?
Wow.
And that just fell into
Dude, no shit? That's fucking awesome. No shit. That's a job.
I was 17 when that.
That's freaking cool.
Happened. But that was because I was doing improv comedy in San Francisco, and I had a nickname. This is just gonna go dirtier.
Well, we hit dick pics took us there,
I
right?
had a nickname, CSL. I had very full lips, and so they called me cocksucking lips.
Oh my goodness.
So because all my
Sexual.
Hashtag cocksucking lips, just in case you're tweeting about this.
Back in the day when I was doing improv, all the people I was doing improv were working at a place called Colossal Pictures in San Francisco, and that's where they were doing the television. And so they threw my name in the hat. And they were like, oh, we know the person who can do this. So So I just, I got paid, I kid you not, $200 for like that whole, all of that stuff. But it didn't matter because my, you know, my lips are out there for liquid television forever now, which is awesome.
I remember that. I remember that program.
But that was like a really, you know, just lucky, completely lucky break. There are those lucky breaks, and then there are the ones where you're fucking killing yourself to get anything made, which is what happened with Death of Superman Lives. It's just like a Kickstarter, you know, you had to basically build it from the ground up just based on...
And how do we see this movie?
Inspiration. We have a website. It's every letter of the title of the movie, tdoslwh.com, so you can get the Blu-rays there. Also, we have a booth downstairs.
All right.
At 531.
We got Trump.
Cool.
Oh, you got
We found Trump.
Yeah. Oh my God. Wait till you see this again.
Oh my God.
He needs the arms to go like this.
That's great.
Sorry.
See, the one I saw was all blurred out.
Anybody over 18? Yeah. Okay, here we go.
He's 14. Not much to see.
Only 5.
Sorry.
I mean, it's just the tip, so.
Just the tip. Just the tip. Relax.
Put it on camera. Edit that out. Edit that out. Edit that out. Sorry.
Is
Where's
that a
that
bird
lady?
tweet?
We need her on that panel.
Please continue. So, how is this not sold to Netflix or Amazon?
Well, I'll tell you. For one,
Okay.
we sold it to Showtime.
Oh,
So it's on Showtime.
Awesome.
Thank you.
That's good.
Thank you so much. We sold it to Showtime. It'll be on Netflix eventually, but Netflix doesn't pay very well. And if it was on Netflix, everybody would see it and nobody would buy it. So we wouldn't make our money back. So maybe in a year or two it would be on Netflix, but not right now. But just the process of getting, you know, from an idea to finishing a feature film that ends up, you know, screening and getting as much praise as it did, because I think we're at 93% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is pretty great. For a documentary.
Wow.
It's great.
Better than The Force Awakens.
Better than any. This is the crazy thing. We have a higher rating than any Superman film.
I can't wait to see this.
The highest rated Superman film.
There's going to be a spike in viewership.
No, the movie's absolutely brilliant. I mean, you know, I've known you guys for years, so just like watching go through the process was awesome, and just like, yeah. But I'm actually not in the movie though. I'm on the extras. That's okay. I don't care.
You were in the early phase.
Right.
The movie changed completely from when we started to when we ended. So in the very early stages, we didn't have all the people that actually worked on the film that didn't get made. So by the end of it, we did. But early on, we were interviewing people like Chris and comic artists, you know, Grant Morrison, Dave Johnson, like all these people who had opinions. And then that got jettisoned because we ended up meeting Tim Burton and talking to Tim Burton.
But I describe your movie as nerd porn. It is it is just so amazing because and also I think one of the best parts about it is, just for an appreciation of anyone interested in the creative process, there's some great footage that you guys got of Nicolas Cage workshopping being Superman, and one of the coolest things was, you talked about on the panel yesterday, was him actually workshopping being Clark Kent, and how Clark Kent would be, his whole thing is like he's pretending to be Clark Kent, he's pretending to be a normal person when he's really this outcast and kind of lonely, and so he wears a Mickey Mouse t-shirt and a sports coat, these nerdy glasses, and you would see, like, his whole thing was, Clark Kent would randomly laugh because he would hear a joke from a stand-up comedian all the way across Metropolis. Like just, so he was trying to think, like, what would it be like to be Clark Kent and still have an awareness? It was,
no one would expect that.
Exactly. So you hear Tim Burton off camera talking to Nick Cage for 10 minutes, and they're talking about how Clark Kent walks differently, how he moves, and
also is mentioning something like,
He
says, I look like one of those guys from those science fiction conventions.
Yes.
And he does. I mean, he's wearing a t-shirt. He looks like, I mean, it was the 90s, so he's got long hair. He looks kind of like, a nerdy hipster, you know. But nobody would expect that would be Superman. And the fact of the matter is that they wanted a completely different take on Clark Kent. That's actually my favorite part of the footage.
That's my favorite too.
More than the Superman stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, that's actually on all the extras on the Blu-ray. There's like it's in tons of, but yeah, the extras. It's just watching a master, Nicolas Cage, hot off of winning an Oscar for Leaving Las Vegas, workshopping, doing a different kind of Superman, keeping it different from the Christopher Reeve version, which I'm not a big fan of that Bryan Singer one because he was just trying to copy Richard Donner's Superman. Yeah. And this, Tim Burton was trying to do something original with the character, and
what he did for Batman.
Yeah, exactly. It's unfortunate it didn't get made. So it's a brilliant doc. You should all buy it.
You know what's interesting though? This is what happens at every single con that John and I go to, and it's very fascinating to me. there's this dividing line with millennials that happens every single con we go to. People will walk by the booth and they'll see the poster we have of Nicolas Cage in the Superman suit. And either, you know, people are in our age group and they're like, oh, I fucking love Nicolas Cage. Anyone that's, you know, usually 25 and under, are like, I hate him. I hate Nicolas Cage. And I ask them, I'm like, why do you hate him so much? Because he sucks. He's a horrible actor. I'm like, what movies have you seen him in?
Right.
And it's always, I'm like, actually sometimes now I just say, what movies before National Treasure have you seen him in?
Right.
He really is a great
And
actor.
they haven't
When
seen
Bernie
any.
Madoff ripped
Yes, he
him
is.
off, he needed to get some cash.
Yeah.
And the scripts aren't all going to be awesome.
He
But every
did
Christmas I
brilliant
watch The
work.
Family Man, and he's
Birdie.
fucking awesome in that.
Raising Arizona.
Yeah, Raising Arizona is
Raising
amazing.
Arizona.
I liked him in Moonstruck.
He was great in Moonstruck.
I loved him in
Adaptation was amazing.
Is the definitive greatest Nicolas Cage performance.
Yes.
I mean, very vulnerable, great character.
These are movies that a lot of people have never seen or
That's
even.
a sin.
It is. Yeah.
And that was the guy who was going to be Superman. I mean, that would have
I
been.
was curious
was the
about that.
actor,
I
like-
knew about this 20 years ago, 20 whatever. Like I knew he always wanted to be
Gotta see
that
this
role.
documentary.
The Death of Superman Lives.
Just come by the booth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where's the
Yeah.
booth? Where's the booth?
531. We're actually right across from Helen Slater, Supergirl. So.
Cool.
That's fortuitous placement. Yeah, cool.
That's awesome.
Let's talk about your stand-up career and what's it like. Because I've been doing stand-up for a while.
Okay.
I'm not nearly as successful as you because you make a living at it. I've been
do
paid
that.
to do stand-up, and I've like hosted, and I've done like I have friends in the stand-up community and stuff. The one thing I always find depressing about stand-up is how it's the real negative energy sometimes with a lot of people. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
yeah.
I'll meet some of like my heroes, and they're like the darkest,
I know.
most negative, hating on the success of others, and I can't. That's why I had to take a step back.
I
'cause
think
it's not, that part's not fun.
Yeah,
but-
I think hating on the success of others is not the norm for working comedians. I think that's not the norm. I think that's a few out there.
But there's so many different types of comics. There's the road comic. There's the like.
That's true.
You know, I mean, can you talk a little bit about your career?
Right, and just like in voiceover, that there's all these different categories and people specialize in them. I think stand-up is the same thing because you can have a whole career in stand-up just doing cruise ships, you know.
Right. Yes.
Just
I see that.
Probably lucrative.
you can make a lot.
No, for real. Cruise ships. Like,
You can make a lot of money.
It's great.
Yeah, it pays great for sure.
Well, where are you fit in? Where do you fit in?
Definitely not cruise ships. I stayed away from that. I stayed away from that knowing and being offered gigs that were, you know, thousands of dollars and you get to be on a cruise for a week. But I stayed away from it because there's a stigma with what we call boat comics. It's kind of derogatory.
Boat comics.
As that's kind of the,
Here comes the negativity.
like the
boat comics.
that's like the hacky.
Hashtag boat comic.
Well, it depends what you're into. For me, what attracted me to comedy from the beginning was the writing aspect of it, the art behind writing a joke. I can, but generally in the industry, I'm not considered blue.
She'll incorporate dick pics now.
Blue means dirty. Blue means dirty.
I do a bit about dick pics on my album. Well, what I do is yes, look, if you're a dude and you are using apps to meet girls, dick pics are things you need in your hidden folder on your iPhone. So, but I don't like to just send a dick pic out. I get creative with it. So I use apps that are on your phone. So I use like, you know that Obama poster when he first ran for president and it said hope? I send a picture of my dick that says hope. And makes me sad that you say regrettably. You should. But then
Are you selling these at your booth?
But then there's like a Hello Kitty app that'll just automatically put Hello Kitty graphics on something, so it immediately misidentifies the head of my cock as a head. So it puts on like a fruit thing and then there's other cartoon like things where you can do like some of these photographics. Get creative with your dick pics is the panel you've walked into, folks. But no, I just use those. I don't just send a picture of my dick because I agree with the woman who started that. So I do like weird things with apps so that it's goofy and it'll garner a laugh. I've got like my dick in a tuxedo, like these are fun apps you can get on your phone and feel free. I'm sure that they work on other body parts too, ladies.
That's what I was going to ask about other body parts.
Anyways, back to, so do you have an album out? Do you have like,
I have a question.
yeah. What's your dirtiest joke?
Oh. I don't even. I gotta think about that one. I'll go back to that one because I gotta think about it.
Okay.
What were you gonna? Wait a second. I gotta think about that.
Panel's been derailed.
Sorry.
Guys, I'm 16. No kidding.
So I love stand-up comics. I tried it in a class and I stink. But there's things I can do. Stand-up comedy isn't one of them. I've just come to grips with that. But I'm such a fan of stand-up comedy as an art form and the writing that goes into it. I'm curious to know personally, though, when you were a kid, who did you look up to? Who are your influences? If we look at
Bill Cosby, guys. Let's be honest. You know, I hate. Well, okay.
Get her a cappuccino.
Here's the thing.
I did too.
mean,
That album.
Bill Cosby was a clean, family-friendly, funny
Great anecdotal.
Rapist.
And
Allegedly.
so when you're a kid, for when I was a kid, that was one of the first people I saw doing stand-up. So
The cartoon?
which cartoon?
The cartoon at the junkyard?
Fat Albert?
Yes.
Of course.
I fucking love
Yeah,
that cartoon.
Fat Albert was amazing. But yeah, he's a rapist, and what are you gonna do? But I'm not saying that was my only influence. It was just one of the first
No, that's honest. That's
comedians I ever saw. But
family anecdotal,
totally.
Love his bit about Spanish Fly.
I know, right?
I did stand comedy for about 2 years in San Francisco years ago, and
That's a great comedy town.
it was the comedy town
Yeah.
at the time. But I was a kid. I was like 17 years old, and I was doing improv and stand up. I left stand up because of the negativity, because of the I couldn't deal with it anymore. Now, here's
The negativity from other comedians, or just in general, that the darkness that we were talking about.
depressed, awful people.
Yeah.
Holly, I'm with you. I'm with the same thing with me. Like, look, I've got whatever career I have, but I would get people shitting on me because I'd done television and all these other things, and they'd say, like, why are you doing stand-up? And it was weird. Like, they were trying to do the stuff that I'm doing, right?
Right.
Which it's just, I don't know, that negativity is,
But
it's
I gotta
draining
say, I
energy-wise.
respect for you that you stuck with it,
Yeah.
that you're still doing it, and that you're, honestly, it was harder being a woman doing it.
Oh,
Part of
for
why
sure.
What I did in order to have some sort of shield was I would do characters. I wasn't myself on stage. And that was way easier to do back in the days that I was doing it, because character comedy was a thing.
Yeah.
But it was too hard for me to be raw and real and myself on stage because of the onslaught of negativity, not just from the audience, but the other comics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my self-esteem was plummeting, and I realized improv was where it was at for me because it was collaborative.
It's more positive,
and
yeah.
everyone's trying to make the other person look good. And so it was very much...
Sure. And one of the things that I really like about stand-up is, I'm an entrepreneur. It's very individualized. And the negative people, I find that those people I can shield myself from, and I tend to surround myself with other professional comedians who I know have a positive attitude as far as supporting other comics and looking at us like brothers and sisters and building each other up, rather than those people who get jealous or whatever like that. To me, that's like not my career path, and I
It's the self-hating that I couldn't handle.
that we can't do anything about that. We're all depressed. That's true. I don't know what the connection is with comedy and being kind of depressed all the time, but it's almost like a way to deal with it, though. A way, it's therapy in a way, that it's someone to talk to about it, and we just put a funny twist on it because we're sick people.
That's
And
one thing I miss is the sickness, because
Yeah.
there's nothing that is off the table. Like, you can talk about anything with comics.
that is true. That
And
is very
it
true.
can go very dark, and you can have the deepest, heartiest laughs.
And that's part of the art that I really appreciate behind it, to take something really, really dark and make it into something that people can laugh about, for sure. To me, that's what attracted me. Like I said, the writing is what I was attracted to initially. I want to be looked at. My genre, I guess, is I want to be a comic that's considered a good writer. And I feel like my people who I look up to in comedy see me that way. I've gotten to work with my heroes, and they, when they say I'm funny or in a good writer, I get to open for Patton Oswalt, which is insane.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, "Oh my God, you're such a good writer." I'm like, "Shut up! Don't say
Do you
that."
write for other comics, or do you write?
I don't.
Do you get offered to do that? Like,
I don't
'cause that's
officially.
A whole other thing.
It is another thing. I don't officially write for other comics, but you know, comics who are open to notes. I love to punch up jokes. That's one of my favorite things to do. So I'll
that's nurturing. That's totally opposite of like, you know.
I'm telling you, there's a whole community of comics who really like to build each other up and get each other work and help each other write and like
the voice world, the voiceover world's a lot like that.
For sure,
like
for sure.
Where you have your
you have
negative
your pockets.
people and you have your, you know, your
yeah,
the rest of the world
absolutely.
is the same way.
There are people too, like Eddie Pepitone, who, do you know Eddie?
I
love
think
Eddie.
he's so funny.
A friend of mine, I adore Eddie. He's amazing, but he's got this shtick that he does where he's super negative on stage.
Yeah. Oh, it's God. His Netflix special's so good.
The Netflix special is.
Oh my God.
What about Anthony Jeselnik? What do you? Really? What's he? Do you know him?
I worked with him.
Yeah,
I've worked with him a couple times.
I'm curious.
Yeah, I know Anthony. He's. I mean, I think he's a real sweet guy. The last time I worked with him, to give you an idea, he came with a feature act, which is the middle act, and I was just hosting the show. And the hosts in America don't make a lot of money for some reason. In every other country, hosts get paid like the most because it's a very hard job on a comedy show because you're getting the crowd when they're cold. You got to warm them up. You got to bring everyone else that you're doing like comedy and work. So Anthony gave me like a $500 bonus last time I worked with him. Like, just he was like, "You did a great job. Here you go." And I was like, "Yay!" So I thought he was really sweet and nice, and yeah, his comedy.
I don't like his comedy.
Yeah, I totally understand. Yeah.
So you don't like dead baby jokes, is what you're saying? There's a whole thing on
Nothing's
dead
off
baby
limits
jokes.
with him. Yeah. And that's his, you know, that's what he
Actually,
makes
maybe-
his money off of.
Professions together. Like
Yeah.
cosplay.
I mean, they overlap too.
This
Going
panel's
back to the-
really diverse.
It was. That's what I mean. Get up and get creative. I mean, we have people that started out as lips on liquid television, but you were already out there.
Yeah,
You were all. She had already got up and got creative, and that put you into the pipeline. I mean, this is just such a diverse. The wrestling comic that you described,
No, it's an
off the charts.
Yeah. I
Mm-hmm.
cannot
And then
wait.
cosplay world. I'm so glad I'm on a panel with a cosplayer because it's just something you admire every time these pop culture conventions happen. It's like you guys
For
are the
sure.
stars.
For sure.
You guys are like the visual artists extraordinaires, and it's just so nice to hear,
Yay!
hear from you.
I have a question
Yeah.
for you. So, I'm a serious nerd, but I'm a nerd for anime and the Miyazaki world, not necessarily everything else. And it's a phenomenon that I can't wrap my head around because it's so broad and it's so huge, and there's like this passion for anime that's unlike any other aspect of nerddom.
Yeah.
Are you an anime fan? Obviously, you're.
I'm an anime fan. I'm also, but my main fandom is like video games. That's what got me into this. Majority of my cosplays are video game characters, not all of them. But yeah, I've been watching anime since I was a little kid.
One of the things I noticed, like in Miami, I've done the cons in London and all over the country. But Miami's got a really strong anime presence.
Yeah.
Some cons do not.
Yeah, for sure.
Are there cities where you notice that it's like this is my town for cosplay or for anime? It's just interesting because every con has a different vibe to
Different
it.
vibe, yeah.
And Miami, I had no idea.
I've noticed that they're very big on anime here.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Mega cons like that too. It's very anime heavy.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's really interesting. Yeah. Anyways,
Let's go to questions from our audience. If anyone has a question, as we get close to wrapping up.
Yeah. We have to wrap up.
Yeah, I do. I don't know what to ask first.
You can ask them all.
Okay, I have one for you.
Okay.
Have you been like in movies, like acting, or it's only been voiceover?
I'm proud to say I was nurse number 2 in Jersey Girl, directed by Kevin Smith, and I pulled back out of an operating room.
Wow.
J-Lo dies.
Nice.
You'd have to have the ultra Blu-ray on it at the right moment appearance, but that was one of the few times. Yeah, that I was like on camera and mostly voiceover.
And like to be a voice actor, do you because like you said you take classes for that acting.
I still do, yeah.
You still do, and you take it all, or is it just only like main focus on like just voiceovers?
Right now, main focus is voiceover. I mean,
But isn't it true though that like
acting classes. Like you need acting classes. When you're voice acting, you're acting. You're not just voice acting. You are acting.
You do. That's a
you
big
need
thing.
acting classes.
That was covered actually in that documentary that I love. That
Yes.
you mentioned.
Yeah, for sure.
Voice acting is acting. It's not just a lot of what I do. Fallout 4. That's how I sound. Given the limitations of not being too specific because of the purposes of being a player character, and there's some with greetings they have to be somewhat generic or they become annoying. In those circumstances, that's what I would sound like, and it's amazing. I'm still a voice actor, but it's not all the time. You know, there's people that can do funny voices, but they can't act their way out of a wet paper bag, and they may go for a short time, but you can't sustain success unless you have acting classes, because it is acting. But the only reason I study right now, I'm in between 2 private coaching sessions with Ginny McSwain, who goes all the way back to voice directing Smurfs back in 1983, and she still works. She does like Rescue Transformers, all this stuff. And I'm actually trying to break into that world, so she's going to help me do that. But she's a great acting coach, not just voice acting coach, and it never stops. I'm 39 right now. When I'm 59, I'll still take voice acting training. It's like an athlete.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't. It's not like, you know, you're in the midst of the baseball season. Well, fuck practice. We don't got to do that till after the World Series. No, like, I'm always going to keep going.
It's any form of art, I think, too. You know, when I talk to wrestlers, I mean, guys that are like, you know, I've been in the business 30 years and I'm still learning stuff from guys. I feel like the day you stop learning at anything is the day
you get stale.
For
you know,
sure.
it's so much easier to start hating what you do.
Oh my God.
Right?
It's almost an automatic thing.
Right. Like once you stop wanting to learn and wanting to, you know, whatever, it becomes stale. You feel insecure more. You never feel more open. It's just like, teach me things. I know I'm not the best at what I do. And more to the point, I won't even phrase it that way. I'm not the best I could possibly be. I may experience something in my 60s that'll help me with a voiceover job I get in my 70s. And I'm a long way away from that. You know what I mean? So yeah, I hope that answered some questions.
So I think that we have to wrap up because they're going to need the room. But for the people who came out, you were not a big audience, but thank you for being the audience. And I think that we should close it out with, tell us about your...
Oh, yeah, you can...
I was waiting all this time to hear about this.
I released this as sort of a multimedia project. It's a book, Celebrities Poop. It's also on Audible, where I read the book to an audience in Phoenix, Arizona. I read the book to an audience, so you can get it as an audiobook. You can also get the comedy album, comes with the book. But I have copies of the album, which, if any of you guys want to get creative, one of the coolest things now in the age that we live in is you can self-put out anything. I mean, I've written books that have been put out by St. Martin's, by Random House, but I also like to do my own projects, my passion projects, in between things where I'm getting paid by a big company. So this was put out by a company called CD Baby, which any one of you guys can go to, and they allow you to, you can put out these in sort of card form, or like in this is a sticker that says Celebrity Poop, and then there's a download code on the back, and I'm giving one out to everyone who came today and everyone on the panel as my gift to you. And it's the comedy album also opens with the song, the original song that I wrote called Celebrities Poop.
Yeah.
So it's free for everyone, and thank you for coming. And just as a way, like if you go to cdbaby.com, you want to release a movie, an album, both a spoken word comedy album or for your band, CD Baby is one of the many places where you can do that. So highly recommend them because they're it's artist run and artist driven.
What a great way to end this because, you know, if you want to get into something creative, there's nothing stopping you.
Yeah, there's nothing. There are no
produce your own
barriers now.
stuff.
There's no barriers. It's